Happy Wednesday, everyone. We're coming at you with some strength today. I know it's midweek, but we had some birthdays to celebrate. So we're going to break up the week this week with some kind of lower cardio intensity with some strength work. I'm not going to say lower intensity because the strength work is no joke. So what we want to make sure is we're focusing on some good, clean movement today and really embracing these movements for what they are, challenging yourselves with the loading and or challenging yourselves with good, solid movement today. So what we have, overhead good morning for 3 to 5 reps, windmill for 3 to 5 per side, plank lean for 2 to down dog, 3 to 5 total complex, sumo squat hold for 10 to 30 seconds, narrow squat hold, 10 to 30 seconds, and then some goblet squats at a 3 to 5 at a 3-1-3 tempo. So we're just trying to figure out a nice little feel for that squat and bring together those holds that we just practiced from extreme to extreme. 2 to 3 rounds, then we're going to move into our first work set. Our first work set again is a 3 to 5 round work set. We are looking at a single leg RDL, 8 to 10 per side at a 3-second eccentric. Rest 20 seconds. Single leg step up plus high knee, 8 to 10 per side. Rest 20 seconds, and then a goblet squat at 10 to 15 reps, a little bit more volume, all right, with a 3-second eccentric. Resting for 40 to 60 seconds in between those rounds, giving yourself whatever you need there, and then tackling that round again. So I'll have another option for you guys with the single leg step up. If you don't have anything at home that you can step up with, I'll have a cool little option for you there. Our next work set is a little bit more core focused, unloaded work. We are going to do a very similar work set that we did a couple weeks ago, all right? But this time we're going to make it dynamic. So we're not going to be holding, we're going to be doing dynamic movement with this. So we have 3 to 5 rounds, hollow up for 30 seconds, so just nice and steady for 30 seconds. Rest 20 seconds. Flip over onto your stomach, prone shoulder raise. I'm going to work on that dynamically with a little minor hold at the top of each rep for 30 seconds. Rest 20, and then you do arch up for 30 seconds, again working dynamically. Steady state flow. We're not saying fast, but we want to just keep moving, perhaps with our breathing, nice steady flow. Resting 40 to 60 seconds in between rounds, tackle that through, and see where it takes you. Again, with our work set, the second half is going to be a little bit faster than the first, because we do have 2 movements in this first piece that are single leg movements, and you'll be doing per side. So this first piece with the lower body focus will be a little longer than the first or the second half. So gauge your time accordingly and see where this one takes you. Let's get you warmed up and ready for action. All right, let's warm ourselves up a little bit. Let's get our feet under our hips. We're going to take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're going to stretch it over to one side, getting a little side bend in here. Keeping the glutes engaged a bit to keep that pelvis kind of natural and neutral. We're going to come back up to center. We're going to forward fold, touch those toes, walk up the shins, come down and frame a foot. We're going to step it back into our lizard. Inside hand's going to press that foot down, locking it in place. We're just going to slowly open towards the outside hand. We'll come back to center and lower the knee. We're going to press the hip. We'll come back to center, keeping that front big toe down. Press the hip to center and press the hip and back to center. We'll straighten out the back leg, turn, come back through, stepping back into our down dog. Reaching those hips, we're going to walk our heels out. Nice and slow, nice and steady. Good flow. And then we'll come back into our plank, step the other foot up. Locking that foot in place, strong legs, we'll turn. Come back to center, lower the knee. Press the hip. Back to center. Press the hip. To center. Press the hip. And back to center. We'll straighten out that back leg. Turn. Back to center. Plant the hand. We'll step her back into our down dog. Reaching those hips nice and high. We'll walk our heels up again. Just waking up the calves a bit. Just making sure things feel okay. Good. Come back into our plank. We'll tiptoe those feet up. We're going to roll ourselves all the way up. Big stretch. Big reach. Big reach. Good. Come down with the hands. Let's get you fired up. All right. Mike, if you'd like to do some gentle warm-up continuing on, Pause the video, work through maybe some cat-cow curls, thread the needles, more hip stuff, whatever you need today to get yourself ready for this lovely work set. We're gonna move into that next phase, which is gonna start heating up the hips and the lower body. We'll get you guys ready. Now pause it, come back to me, and take you through that first phase of warm-up. All right, our first phase of warm-up is gonna kickstart off with a good morning series with a nice overhead good morning. So I'm gonna turn to the side. I prefer myself to be in slightly wider stance, so kind of a wider squat or sumo stance for this one. So I'm gonna set myself up here, nice and tall, set my glutes. I'm gonna take my arms overhead. So I'm focusing on that good overhead position, ribs are in, and then I'm going to pull my hips back, fighting for that overhead position to stay the same as I get that hinge. And then I'll stand tall, keeping that overhead position. It's very common that as I pull back, my arms start to come down, or my shoulder position is compromised because of the taxing of the position that I'm pulling my hamstrings and my body into. So we really need to listen to that overhead position. So we set the ribs, we press up with those arms, we keep pulling back on the arms to make sure they stay where we need them to. If they start to move and we can't hold that position, just stop your range of motion. So don't worry about going beyond, even if it's not the same range that you can get normally with a good morning without your hands overhead. So listen to that overhead. That is going to be a pretty good indicator in terms of the deciding factor of how low or the amount of range that we get, in that work set or in that movement. So take your time, move slow. There's no tempo, but a 3-second lower is always a nice way to go to focus on those shoulders. After that, we're gonna stay in our sumo stance. We're gonna work on that windmill. So keeping the arm overhead, we're gonna focus on the shoulder position so the armpit faces forward. Nice solid pressure up to the sky. We are going to pull the hips back like a good morning, but then start to rotate towards the side of that arm that's in the air. And I'm gonna take it as deep as I can, maintain that overhead position and that good rotation. So we wanna make sure we're isolating the shoulder, keeping it still, and as I rotate, fighting that desired urge of the shoulder to rotate inwards as I start to rotate through my mid-body. So again, active pressure, squeezing of the glute, we're gonna pull back, rotate, keeping that shoulder as our primary focus, and taking it as far down as you can maintain that position. It's a challenging piece. A nice way to kind of see if that shoulder is behaving is just film yourself, just to see if that shoulder is rotating on its own or if it's moving with your torso. We have 3 to 5 per side with those, so take your time, give yourself that dose that you want for that, and then continue on with our next phase, which is going to help open up those shoulders and core a little bit more, which is that plank lean to down dog. So I'm going to set myself up in that good plank position, so I grip the floor with my hands, set those shoulders over top of the hands, and I pull my ribs in. I'm going to pull with the shoulders over to one side, and then I'm going to pull to the other side. And then I come back to center, and then I'm going to pull my body back into that nice down dog position. Really softening the knees and the hips so I can get into that good position for that angle, and then come back into that plank as I pull the ribs in, press through the shoulders, and maintain that nice tight midsection. So really, really focusing on that good shoulder position as we pull into that down dog. We want to make sure we have a neck. So if we feel this starting to happen, we need to really focus on pulling those scapula away and pulling that lat around the body to get that good, stable, strong upper body position. From our 3 to 5 reps of our plank lean to down dog, we're going to move into a sumo squat hold. So sumo squat is that wider stance position. You can take it pretty wide, but we have to make sure that as we push the knees out, they are tracking the toes and that we're not collapsing in. If we are still experiencing those knees collapsing in, even though we're pushing as hard as we can outwards, we need to bring those feet in a little bit. So from here, I get my sumo stance, I set my ribs and glutes, I pull my hip to my heel, pushing those knees out, feet stay flat, I'm upright, and I'm going to continue to push those knees out, feeling those feet, keeping that body upright, anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. Now to come out of it, I'm gonna push through my feet and I wanna leave via a good squat position. So if I feel myself starting to fall forward and lift my hips up first, I wanna make sure that I come out before that happens. So again, that position from the side, my knees are pushing out, my feet are flat, my chest is as high as I can keep it, reaching, staying tall, and then I come out of that position just like I went into it, like a good squat. From that 10 to 30 second hold, we're gonna move to the opposite end of the spectrum and move into our narrow squat stance. So we can pass to our regular squat stance and say, that's my regular, that'll be my narrow for today to see how I feel. And then with that, we're gonna move into that squat hold again, setting the ribs and glutes, taking the hips to the heels, keeping that chest up nice and tall, and taking as deep as I can maintain that back position. Keeping in mind, we may not be able to get as deep as we can in our sumo or our regular squat stance, and that's okay, because it's gonna put different stresses on the ankles, knees, and hips. So listen to your body, allow yourself to kind of stay in that midfoot position and let that be your guide so we're not falling forward into the toes or back into the heels. Right after that, we're gonna meet in the middle and we're gonna work on our goblet squat or our air squat. So if you're not quite ready to touch load yet, you can just do air squats at a nice tempo. I'm gonna bring my feet into my regular squat stance, pull my dumbbell up under the chin or no dumbbell, set the ribs and glutes. I'm gonna take those hips to the heels, keeping that chest up nice and tall, focusing on that nice midfoot balance and taking it back up. So I take that hip to heel and then stand tall with that nice 3-1-3 tempo. So it's gonna be relatively slow on the 3 down, little pause at the bottom just to find and feel your feet, and then a nice slow stand up. And again, it's just gonna bring everything together for those squats. As a quick recap, you guys, we have overhead good morning, 3 to 5 reps, into a windmill, 3 to 5 per side, plank lean, 2 reps to a down dog for 3 to 5 in total, sumo squat hold, 10 to 30 seconds, narrow squat hold, 10 to 30 seconds, and a goblet squat for 3 to 5 reps at a 3-1-3 tempo. 2 to 3 rounds, take that down, get yourself fired up. It's gonna get you ready for action, and then we're gonna move into our first phase of work, which is gonna primarily focus on our lower body. All right, we've warmed up, we're ready to go. Our first work set, 3 to 5 rounds. We're gonna kickstart it off with a single leg RDL. You can choose to load this, you can choose to not load this. It depends on your comfort level with this movement. Now I'm gonna show you different ways to load it, but I want you guys to keep in mind, if you like, just keep your hands to the front, unloaded, if you'd like to do it without any weight, pretending that we are keeping those hands where we would put a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Now, with this, I can hold the dumbbell in 3 different places. I can hold it to the front by both bells. I can hold it on the leg that's doing the kickstand work, so is my supporting leg. And I can hold it on the side of the leg that's doing the work itself. So either one is a good option. Neither is better nor worse. They're just slightly different, and they're gonna challenge the body and balance just a little bit differently as well. I find for most people, holding by the bell and or the leg that's doing the kickstand is probably the easiest place to start for balance purposes, but any one of those 3 is good, and I invite you all to explore each one of those positions as this movement gets stronger and more stable. Now, I'm gonna hold it on the kickstand leg just so you can see the dumbbell where it's going. My toe is gonna come down from my kickstand just as some light support. I squeeze my glutes to keep my hips square. My shoulders are pulled back and set, ribs are in, so nice neutral position. I'm gonna pull the hip back, keeping the weight through that midfoot. I'm gonna keep that dumbbell close to my body as I take it down to below the knee or to the knee. Then I'm going to stand, squeeze, and set. Setting at the top, I pull that hip back, which allows my torso to come forward, and my hips are still going back as I lower the dumbbell to the knee. So the whole time, I'm pulling back, keeping my weight in my midfoot with that big toe down, and standing. It's very easy and very common that when I stop, switch feet so you can see it better, as I start to pull back, that big toe starts to separate, and we start to shift our weight into our heel. We really have to fight for that midfoot contact, and that big toe to stay down the floor. So really fight for it and really try and feel your feet. You're looking at 8 to 10 per side with a 3-second eccentric down to the knee, and then repeat. So take your time, challenge the loading. If you'd like to start light, build heavier. If you have access to different loads at home, awesome. If not, do it empty-handed and really work on feeling your feet and your engagement. And if you want, you can even slow it down to a 5-second eccentric to make it just a little bit more time under tension. You'll get a 20-second rest, and after that, we're going to move into a single leg step up to high knee. The single leg step up to high knee is kind of a fun little movement. It involves some coordination work and a little bit of balance work as well. So what we're going to do is all on one side. So I prefer, if you'd like to do this, it's just to ease your mind, leave the leg up that's doing the work so that we can just keep focused on that leg and that control. What you're going to do is you're going to step pushing through this leg, and we are going to lift that knee up, that's coming up, and then come back down. So a couple things you can play with. We can lift, put the foot down, and then step down. Depending on how high and how comfortable you are with this movement, we can lift and come right back to the floor. This is a pretty low box, so it's not so bad in terms of going right to the floor. But if you do have a higher ottoman, chair, box that you're stepping on, you may want to put your foot down briefly just for some balance purposes and come down. Now, something to watch out for that we talk about a lot in our standing march, watch this balancing leg as I come up. We want to make sure that as I lift my knee, this leg is nice and straight and we're not buckling as I lift my knee up higher. We keep that leg nice and straight, nice and supported, and good and strong. Can you do this loaded? Absolutely. You can hold a dumbbell to the suitcase or farmers, even goblet, but we just want to make sure that we have the loading out of the way of that knee coming up into that lift. So if you'd like to load it, you're more than welcome to. If you're like, whoa, the coordination and balance aspect of that is enough, that's also fine too. So just focus on that piece first, and then start to add loading in if you'd like to make it more challenging. If you don't have a box or a step that you're comfortable stepping on, we can work on that lunge to high knee, and we can work right back into that step, or we can work on that nice smooth RDL to high knee position to work on that balance and coordination. So there's a few good things we can play with there, and I'll have a few options at the bottom of the workout description. After that, we have a goblet squat. So we have a multitude of loads we can play with this. Whatever you have at home, use. And if you'd like to make it a little more challenging, if you have a lighter dumbbell or a lighter set of dumbbells, you can extend the eccentric and make it a little bit slower on the way down. So again, our regular squat stance, we talked about this in our earlier phase of the warm-up. We set ribs, we're gonna take those hips to the heel, staying tall, keeping that weight through the midfoot, and just a little bit of gentle pressure up into the dumbbell as well can really help keep that body engaged as we keep that upper body set so we're not collapsing over top of the dumbbell. So play with that. If you only have lighter dumbbells and you're like, the squat's getting a little easier, again, we have 10 to 15 reps first off, and then start adding a couple seconds to that eccentric, extending a 3-second to a 5-second if you'd like. Resting 40 to 60 seconds, rock that, hit the next round, and again, quick recap for that first work set. We have single leg RDL for 8 to 10 per side, rest 20 seconds, single leg step up to high knee, 8 to 10 seconds aside, rest 20 seconds, goblet squat for 10 to 15 reps with a 3 to 5 second eccentric, rest for 40 to 60 seconds, do it again. Hit as many rounds of that as you need to, 3 to 5 rounds depending on what you have time for, and depending on what kind of volume you're looking at for the day. Pause the video, take it down, come join me for some good old-fashioned gymnastics. All right, you guys, our last work set of the day, 3 to 5 rounds. We're gonna do some dynamic variations of a work set we did a couple weeks ago, kickstarting off with the hollow up. So the hollow up, we lay on our back. So I'm gonna lay down, and what our primary focus here is that pulling in of the rib and hip and making sure our low back stays in contact with the floor. So there's a few different ways we can do this. As is the hollow up, our toes will be together, our arms will be over our head. we are going to pull our ribs and hips in, and we are going to pulse and pulse. So it's not a very long hold, but we are hollowing out that body, getting into that soft kind of bracket shape. Now, if you feel that is too much with a double leg, we can work on keeping a single leg down, and we do the same thing, pulling the ribs in, tucking that pelvis. We lift through one leg, back and forth, alternating that little hollow. So it's not a very high lift, it's not a V-up, it's just a very subtle lift, pulsing that core engagement. Now again, another option, if we need a little bit more foundation work, bringing one foot closer to the glutes and setting up and doing 15 seconds with that foot a little closer, just allows us to get a little bit more kind of base for that engagement, and then we'd switch and do 15 seconds on the other side as well. So taking your time with this is a challenging movement, and they do burn. You have 30 seconds to kind of do maximal work in there, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining those key criteria of pulling the ribs and hips in, getting that good tuck of the pelvis, and making sure that low back is in contact with the floor. So if you need to, rest, take a few moments. You have 30 seconds to do what you can, but we want to make sure that we're maintaining that good position. After that, we get 20 seconds of rest, and you're really just going to roll onto your stomach during that 20 seconds of rest. Setting up that good hollow, we're going to squeeze our toes together, press them gently into the floor, tuck through the ribs, press down through the armpits and the palms, and we're going to maintain this position. And this can be challenging to hold this position. So if this is where you kind of want to start today and work on that kind of flipped over hollow, I'm okay with that. If you just want to hold that for 30 seconds, that's a nice challenge if you want to do some isometric work. But with the dynamic piece, we're going to set and maintain that position, and we're just going to lift the arm for a beat, press, arm, beat, press, arm, beat, press, maintaining that hollow the entire time. So if you find you start to lose that activation through the ribs and the hips, we want to make sure that we just take a break, we reset from the toes up to the fingertips, and then continue on. Because again, you have 30 seconds, and that's a long time to maintain that hollow while lifting those arms. So if you need to break midway through, break midway through. If you have time, reset, do some more reps. Afterwards, we have our arch up, and we have two different ways we can do this. I get set up, toes together. I'm going to inhale, reach long, exhale, come down. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So I'm trying to lengthen my arms and my legs, and that's what's going to give me that lift. I squeeze my glutes a bit, and I work on reaching and lowering. Now, if both hands and both feet are a little too much, we can work on that unilateral work. Right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot. But again, focusing still on the lengthening aspect. Not worrying about lifting this leg super high, but trying to get it as straight as we can through the knee and through the leg. So really focusing on that lengthening aspect as we work 30 seconds. Now that unilateral option is quite nice too. If we always do 2 hands, 2 feet, there's nothing wrong with using that unilateral work set to change it up a little bit, because it does offer its own sense of challenge and its own different load in the body. So experiment with it. If you're always using the double foot, double hand, it's a nice change. After that, you rest for 40 to 60 seconds and you take that down again. This is gonna burn, and it's not gonna be as long as the first piece. So if you want to think about a little bit more volume in this one, you can, depending on how comfortable you are with those positions. So we have 3 to 5 rounds, hollow up for 30 seconds, dynamic, rest for 20 seconds. Prone shoulder raise, 30 seconds, dynamic. 20 seconds of rest, and then arch up for 30 seconds, nice and dynamic flow for 40 to 60 seconds resting between rounds. Repeat as many rounds between 3 to 5 as you like. This is gonna be a nice day to work on some good positions, some good form work, and really tap in to that single leg strength and that good squat mechanic work in this work set. So take your time, play with it, get yourself warmed up, ready to go, and let me know how it goes. I'm always interested to know how the strength work goes. It's a fun time, and I hope you guys enjoy. As always, everyone, work for quality, have tons of fun, and we'll see you tomorrow for a nice low intensity, kind of longer work set tomorrow with some steady state work. Have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye, you guys.